Hello. Today what I want to do is just introduce you to game engines, the different types of game engines, and a few examples of each category. And I wanted to just kind of let you know so that if you are thinking about getting into game development or you follow my content, you'll kind of have an idea what they're about and what they're used for, and what level maybe to jump in at depending on your particular skill set. Now, I've been in and around as a hobbyist game enthusiast for years and years and years, game development enthusiast, about 20 years, I guess. I really got into it back in the day of Neverwinter Nights and the Aurora tool set, which to this day I believe is probably one of the greatest tool set engines ever made. Now, a tool set sits on top of an engine, which sits on top of a framework generally. So what you've got is a framework, is a low level, pulls everything together, the guts behind the engine. The engine is a rudimentary set of tools that sits on top of that framework and allows you to put together things like bring in your models, bring in your scripting, put in your codes, allow your animations to interact, etc., etc. But then a tool set sits on top of that engine and lets you visually interact with everything. You can drag and drop your models in. You can see how they look on the screen. You can use a terrain editor. You can use the make primitives, drop them into the scene. You can drag your codes over and attach them in a hierarchy underneath of said models or objects in your scene. So they're very different levels of interaction. Pretty much everything I'm going to talk about in this list is going to have some form of a tool set, so it will be at that higher tier product capability. And I'm going to start with some of them that are an even higher tier than that. They're like low code or no code, and they have everything kind of built in, and you just drag and drop and publish your games from there. Now, they are still game authoring tools. There is some argument. Some people think that they aren't real game engines or aren't real tools, but honestly, if they could pull together the assets and you can attach code in one way, shape, or form to make actions happen or make interactions, follow scripts, follow a plot line, however you want to call it. If you can do all that, then it is indeed a game engine or a game tool set. So that's from my perspective. So what I'm going to start with here is some of the low code ones, and I'm just going to give you a couple of examples here. And what you'll see on my screen is BuildBox. Now, BuildBox is an all-in-one drag and drop product. You pay for it, and then you use their service, and they have a lot of assets pre-made. You drag it in, you drag in pre-made behaviors, and away you go. Is there any examples here? Those are all games. So there's an example of the GUI interface right there. So you drag an image in, it uploads it, you can assign a behavior over here, it becomes an asset. There's not a whole lot of showing on their main webpage here until you dig in deeper. But it's basically drag things in, like the spaceship, you would drag it in, then you would drag a behavior over it that says like spaceship shooter, and then it might have a slot on the side here where you would then drag in a bullet projectile or drag in a particle effects, and maybe you could drag a particle effects out of the back here and move one to here, right click, copy it, drag it over to here, pin it to that, so you've got these jets firing. So a really simple interface here would be like a vehicle movement on this person, and then there would be an interaction where you drag a behavior over this and it would say collect the dot, add 10 points or something, right? If this person collides with this, then add 10 points. So pretty simple behavior sort of ideas. Not any coding really to be done. You just drag everything, it clicks it together like a big puzzle, and then you publish your game from there. Moving on, menu. Now, menu is a new entry into this genre. Now, it has a bunch of pre-made models and stuff, but you can add your own. But again, you add behaviors to it, and then those behaviors are attached to the models or the assets in the frame, and you have a set amount you can choose from, and you can put it all together and make a game out of it. Drag GUI over, adjust the color, add some text, type in the text that you want. Here it would be like add a health bar to a zombie model, add a gun, a first-person shooter action to your character, which would automatically attach the camera, things like that. So again, it's a very intuitive, easy to use drag and dropper. However, it will not let me get past this little pop-up, I don't think. It looks like they've added multiplayer to it now, so that's kind of nice. I might actually check this one out. It depends if it is a free download, so I might check this one out and do a separate video on it. Moving on, core. Now, a core is a little different concept yet again. Core is built in Unreal Engine 4, and it's basically a portal. You log in, and it's kind of a multiverse environment. And in there, they give you the ability to make your own little mini games or whatever using their tools, their assets. You have a central hub, and from there you can wander around. So pretty much anything that you could think of with predefined assets again, pre-designed avatars. There is customization available. But it basically is a hub world that you can go into and you can create from there. I did try it out, and I was going to do a series on it. However, to me, it is a little different than your typical game engine because it's a portal engine, I like to call it. And with these portal engines, you have to go into their proprietary universe, and then you can jump around. And I didn't really like the way that they did it in there. It's not like you had a big list of games or things to choose from, or it was kind of weird. It was kind of like you went in these little doors, and there was a list up top, but it seemed to only show their most popular ones. They say that there's thousands available, and it's like I kept getting the same 20 over and over, and that gets pretty old pretty quick. So I don't know if I was just doing it wrong. Check it out for yourself. Maybe it's up your alley. It does give you a bunch of really good learning tools, though, for the Unreal Engine. Like, it'd be a good jumping off spot to learn the basics of the Unreal Engine because they have all the predefined assets and the predefined terrain building and things like that are simplified down and made really easy to learn. So it's a good spot to learn if you're going to go into the Unreal Engine, because then you could jump off after spending some time in here, jump into the Unreal Engine. You're already familiar with a lot of it, and then it works as a good base to move on from. Speaking of moving on, next I'm going to jump into Game Guru Max. Now, if you're familiar with my channel, you've seen a lot of this coverage. I really like this engine. It's a low code, but it does allow you to use the Lua scripting. But however, behaviors and things, there's a lot of templated canned behaviors. It comes with a lot of assets. There's a lot of DLC content available for it. And it is a really good first-person shooter creator. It's even got a little bit of ability to put in like a HUD like a Skyrim. And in conjunction with other tools like Cinemax and Max Easy Terrain Editor, you can do a lot of creativity, and it does allow you to bring in your own models and your own content, which some of the other ones don't necessarily let you do so well. They want you to use their pre-canned assets. So that's where it's kind of starting to go towards an actual game engine / tool set, but it is a no code or low code if you want to game engine. So it does give you a lot of functionality in a very short time frame. You could put something together pretty impressive looking, and it's based on the Wicked game engine, and the creators are Game Studios, the game developers, I believe it's called, the game developers, and they're out of the UK, and they've been in the game a long time. Their flagship product is called Dark Basic, and I actually have a copy of Dark Basic right there. So I've been following their work for many, many years and using their products for many, many years. As a hobbyist, they're a great product for a hobbyist. And they are a really good all-in-one solution with this latest iteration. The only downsides that I personally have about it, you're limited to a single water plane, which in this day and age is kind of ridiculous. Like, nobody limits you to a single water plane. Like, even 20-year-old software allows multiple planes of water. So it's really hard to put in like ponds and lakes and things, unless that's all you're putting in and you're not doing an ocean. And trying to do rivers and stuff is impossible at this point in time. And my other criticism is that they're using the first-person shooter method of two arms suspended in midair rather than a full 3D body. So if they had gone the full 3D body route, they would have very easily been able to switch into third-person camera mode. However, that's not the route they've taken, and historically they have not taken that route either. They've always gone with the two arms suspended in the air and really embraced the first-person style of gameplay. So just know that if you're going to be looking at Game Guru Max, you're getting into a first-person shooter, and that's pretty much what you're limited to. I mean, you can do jump scares, puzzle solving, you can even have melee weapons and stuff, but you are in that first-person perspective until such a time when Lee updates the engine and changes how things work and stuff. So just be aware of that. Moving on, you're now going to move on to Game Maker. Now, Game Maker was originally made by Yo-Yo Games, and it is a full-on game studio, highly focused on 2D games, and it uses pre-made coding language. It uses GML Visual. You can also code with their scripting language, Game Maker language. However, it allows for, I'm seeing if they've got any media pictures here for me to show you the engine a little better. Let's go showcase. Maybe there's something here. And there's lots of games and examples available. There's always been lots, even when it was Yo-Yo Games. Back in the day, I did a few games with it, and they turned out really well. They were great. However, I haven't used it recently because it was always on paid basis, but now a free version is available again. So if you're looking to get into 2D game making, I would highly suggest Game Maker is a good avenue to start. Now, moving forward to another one, almost the same but slightly different, G-Develop. Another 2D game maker studio, that's its primary focus. Recently they've added 3D. I found a couple of little glitches the last time I tried to do a project with the 3D. However, I'm sure that's a work in progress. It is pretty much new to the engine in the last version, so they will be working on that moving forward. But again, it's a low code or no code engine, although it is a really amazing engine to learn coding with. Now, I don't know if they have, I don't know if they've got any images of it here. They're not really showing it here. Their main financial model, though, is actually selling you the web space because it is also available in a web browser. And that's one of the reasons why I've actually got it over here on my taskbar, because that'll lead us into the next section. Although I want to cover RGP Developer Backend next. But their web space and collaboration and able to have, that's where their money model is. And it's extremely affordable money model. And it is a really capable engine. I've done several videos on it on my channel. And I find it, especially in the 2D mode, it is very user-friendly, very easy to learn. And by using its drag and drop codelets, I guess you would say, drag and drop codelets, but their actions and if, else, where commands, they're all kind of pre-built, so you don't have to know how to the syntax of the code. You just know you can grab them, drag them over, put them where you want, set the variables. It's got a very advanced math system in it. It's a very good system. I actually prefer it to Game Maker Studio, although there are a lot of people that like Game Maker Studio. And there's another one, what is it called? Game Maker 001, I believe it's called. And it's also another of these type, and a lot of people follow it and have made quite a few projects. There's a lot from all of these engines on Steam in 2D category. Another 2D category I'm going to cover really quick is just I don't have a visual up for it. It's the Intersect game engine. So if you're wanting to make a multiplayer 2D game, the Intersect game engine is probably going to be what you want. And I have a whole playlist getting started on that, and it'll get you right up to speed if you just follow along. I think there's 9 episodes I have in a playlist, and for making a 2D online RPG, yeah, it's probably going to be your single best bet. It's just a really solid engine. JC and Richie have put a lot of work into it, and I have actually an interview with a developer who used a modified version of that engine to make a game that's right now on Steam in the pre-access wishlist stage. So you can check that out if you want to know more about it. But moving on from we're going to go to RGP Developer Backend. So now RGP Developer Backend is a 3D game engine. And it is very similar to GDevelop in the fact that it has, and Game Maker, in that it has a kind of a visual coding to it. You can drag actions and codes over to assign behaviors. But where this engine really shines, and why I love this engine, is it's very reminiscent of the Neverwinter Nights tool set in the way that it's laid out. You have a 3-dimensional grid, and you can assign textures, and you can even create your own assets. I've done a bunch of that. And in fact, if you are an RGP Developer Backend enthusiast and you're looking for assets, then hop over to my itch.io page. I offer a bunch of different tile sets, texture terrains, and even some tree and model packs for it. So hop on over there, and they're very affordable and very cheap, and they will get you up and running with some extra content if that's the game engine that you want to work with. Now what it is it is basically a 3D version of RGP Maker series, which is a Japanese 2-dimensional Super Nintendo styled RGP game engine. And RGP Backend has taken that engine more or less, it's their own engine. It's not the same company or anything like that, but they've made a 3D version, as you can see from the screenshots zipping by, that they've actually made that a 3D version, and they've done a really good job. These white grids here on the screen, that's basically your terrain, and you can shape and mold your terrain. Very user friendly, very easy to get the hang of, and yet if you want to get more complicated with it, there's like action combat systems that can be implemented. Although that's my biggest criticism of this developer, is they have not implemented action combat into the core engine. It's a plug-in by third-party developers, and I don't know why they haven't built it in out of the gate. Action combat is such a thing in this day and age. You should be able to switch mode, action combat, or turn-based combat. Like, it should just be a toggle in the game engine. The other thing is there is no multiplayer capability, not even like team play or co-op play, let alone anything more robust. And that's one problem I have with some of these lesser known game engines and independent game engine companies. Multiplayer is a thing. We're living in 2024, 2023. If your game engine does not have multiplayer support baked in, at least at some level, then it's really, really dated with its technology and is falling behind. Even if you use the Steam has a what do you want to call it, protocol or a integration set for doing multiplayer that is available. You could use that. You could use Steam's version. Anyway, those are my only 2 criticisms. Overall, it is a really user-friendly, really easy to get started, nice looking, especially if you're looking for the graphics that aren't necessarily like AAA title graphics, but have that stylized look. It is generally a very nice engine to work with, and you can get a lot done in a short period of time. And there's a lot of people in the community out there working away with it, and a lot of them are very helpful, including myself. So that's RGP Developer Backend. Now I'm going to touch on the new up-and-coming... No, you know what? I'm going to go over here first to the big game engines out there. So I'm going to start on some of these standalone game engines that are some of them are a little lesser known but very capable. So here's the Neo Axis engine. I've recently done a little bit of a series actually in this playlist looking at different game engines. I've done a couple parter on Neo Axis game engine where I dug into it for a few days. And it is very, very capable. I'm just going to pop on this picture here to show you the quality available with it. So it's got a basic engine, very Unity-like or Unreal Engine-like. They're all kind of have a generalized interface the same. Oh, and that's the same with RGP Developer Backend. Sorry, they don't show it here, but it has a pretty standardized interface to it as well. So and same with GDevelop. It's got a pretty. Do they have a picture of it here? I don't see a picture. No, that's the thing. No pictures on the main site. But again, a very, your game objects are on the left. Your overall tooling is on the right. In the center is your stage, and down below is generally like an asset list or a layer list or something. Pretty much all modern game engines follow a similar layout and a similar theme. So, and that's shown here again. You've got stuff down below. You've got your game components here. This is actually just the scene loader, so you don't get to see it. This is where you load your scenes from, and your tooling and stuff are here. You drag them into the scene, or you drag them over to your object page, and they become a component. It's a component-based system. And there's just an example of how well this looks. And if you want to see more of this, I have some on my playlist here, so you can take a look. But a very, very capable engine. There's a few things missing from it that the developer's working on, and he should be putting up his next release really soon here. It should be coming out within 30 days to 60 days. The next version of his update, where he's implementing a lot of new improvements, and I'm pretty excited about this game engine. It's very capable, pretty easy to learn. It is a C# based game engine, so any coding or scripts you're going to do outside of the integrated tools and the pre-built components, which there's a lot of, you'll be writing those in C script or C#. Sorry. Next, I'm going to come over here to I'll go to actually another lesser known one that's also very capable, the Falco engine. And now they just had an update recently, 10/8/2023, so he's recently updated. But this is just an engine one developer has made, Lithuania, Russia, or somewhere like that. That Neo Axis engine was also from there. However, it's very capable and it renders out pretty nice. Is there any? Let's just see features. Let's go into features, graphics. It doesn't really show me. Tutorials, is there anything in here? He's got a bunch of tutorials on his YouTube. Just trying to see if there's anything to kind of. There's a couple of good flybys that he's got, and but he's got quite a bit of tutorials here. And here's a good picture right here. The Falco engine. This is done by Games from Scratch. This one was a couple years ago. But as you can see in the background, the trees, the graphics, full PBR support, again, full editor, and I believe it's a customizable editor. I think you can drag your interface around wherever you want. But again, independent developer, free engine, and available for your use. Again, I believe it's a C# engine. So now I'm going to go to this other engine here. Now this is an engine that I was so looking forward to trying out. This used to be called Essential back in the day. The guys rebranded it as Titan engine. Probably thought if it sounded catchy it would get more of a following and pick up and stuff. Now it is very, very, very featureful. It's got a lot of abilities to it, and it looks amazing on paper. The only problem is that when you actually get in and you got to do anything with it, it is very 2000-ish. He has not updated his tool set. He can't. So it looks great and it's capable of some amazing stuff under the hood, but the tool set is very, very not user friendly. There's a few things that are pretty okay-ish about it, but they're like half-baked. The guy hasn't hasn't brought it to a modern looking editor. The components are all individual, and you pull them up as individual tools rather than integrated into a tool set. Um, it's just, yeah, it just has so much potential, and he's even got basic tutorials built in, but they're all C++ tutorials built in, and there's a few YouTube tutorials, but they really don't cover nearly enough to get started. I was so hopeful for this. I even purchased a template for a massive multiplayer online game. I wanted to go and get it set up, and it's like, yeah, it was almost impossible to get it set up and running. I was able to open it up in the editor. I did a little bit of painting of textures on the ground. I brought my own material in. I was able to figure that out through watching over and over some of the videos he had. But then I went to put water down, and it was like the worst water system on the planet. It's like horrible. Couldn't even get it to work. So I don't know. Then I went to Discord and started talking to a bunch of guys about it, and basically the consensus is that the developer refuses to upgrade it to a modern user interface and tool set, and he just keeps trying to reflog the same old thing over and over again. So I'm sorry, but rebranding your name and adding it onto all these channels and stuff isn't going to further user adoption. It is such a high potential engine. It could really be amazing. But dude, you've got to bring it up to the times. You've got to make the tool set more like everyone else has done. You've got a lot of single developers like the Falco engine and the Neo Axis engine where they've made a modern tool set, and they've done a really good job of it. And you refuse to embrace that. You don't want to hug that pony. So yeah, I don't think you're going to get adoption. You're just going to have a few people clinging on, hoping that one day you'll see the big picture and update and make this a real amazing product that has so much potential to do. Like, it is, the potential for this engine is just stellar. And the guy just needs to get with the program and bring it up to date. So until he does that, I can't actually recommend it. But go ahead and try it out. See for yourself. You'll see if you agree with my opinion or not. Maybe you like to work with everything at a code level and not really have an editor for much except organization. If that's the case, then this may be the engine for you. Give it a shot. Moving on, three big ones actually out there. So you have the Unity, which is, I don't have to talk too much about this, very powerful. Many assets available for it. Tons of plugins. I actually own this one, and I have over the years purchased several plugins for it, including procedural worlds, terrain generation, atavism plugin product for making massive multiplayer online games, and a bunch of other model sets and kits for it. So I've done a lot of Unity work over the years. I don't use it now. I don't agree with all the changes to their models and their plans, and what actually started me not liking it was every time they did a major version change, my projects they weren't compatible anymore, and a bunch of the plugins I bought weren't compatible, and there was 90 million steps in order to try and convert things over and make them work. It's like, no, sorry, if I can't use the stuff that I've purchased, and I can't use the models and things, and I've got to go through this complicated workup in order to use them, I don't want to use you anymore. I'm sorry. And so I've moved away from Unity, and that's one of the reasons why you don't see any Unity content on my channel. Now, maybe in this in this tool set, I will reinstall it and use it and give you a basic overview of it just in a couple of episodes. Maybe I won't. I don't know. But that's my take on Unity. Now, the next one is the Unreal Engine. Now, I have this. It's installed. You can see right here the installer for the Epic Games Launcher here. I've installed it. I've bought some content for it. I started with it in version, I think it was 4.2 or something. Most recently, I'm running 4.3. I do play around with it a little bit from time to time because honestly, it is the most amazing piece of technology out there. Nothing else compares to it. It is totally a AAA game studio engine that can't be touched. Like, it is just so amazing. However, I find there's a lot of things in there complicated and hard to set up and use. It should be more simple. It's got a lot under the hood. And by a lot under the hood, I mean it has so much stuff under the hood that by the time you build out even a simple project, you're talking gigs and gigs of file size. So that's one of the reasons I don't actually use it for my game development, because it is very bloated at this point in time. And it can do everything from the Star Wars series down to a simple 2D game platformer and everything in between. But unfortunately, a lot of those packages and elements bundled together, even in the simplest of game, you're going to have these large bloated files. And I just don't see the need for that. But I do enjoy playing with it because it is awesome. And you can learn a lot by poking around in it. And you can sure get a lot of eye candy on screen. Nice and easy. Now, the other one in the U series, Unigen. And I don't know why that dude was on the front of their model there, but it's a very capable engine. It's very much same user interface and stuff as the let me just go here and see if we get any more pictures. Might not have much for pictures, but you can see these pictures here of what's rendered on it. It's very capable. If I had to compare it graphic wise to any of the other engines out there, I would say I would compare it to the Unreal Engine the most part. And these guys, Unengine, they're known actually for benchmarks. They've made some 3D engine benchmarks for computer graphic cards, etc., etc. They're known for that. They can make some pretty beautiful stuff. They've got really nice oceans and water bodies and things. They do things a little differently than how Unreal does it and how Unity does it. But I'm pretty impressed with it. I would say if you're looking for another game engine out there besides the two big ones, and you want something of that quality, the Unengine is definitely an engine to look at. Now it is written with C++ and C#, so you can use whichever of those languages you prefer. I definitely prefer C# over C++. I am not a good coder by any means. I poke around at coding, and I am not scared to let ChatGPT write some base code for me, then just go in and tweak it out. That is kind of the level of my coding. I guess you'd call it more of a script kiddie than a hardcore coder. That's for sure. But that being said, yeah, you check this one out if you want. It is capable of some really neat stuff, and it's got some good technology demos available. Yeah, moving on. There's one I'm really interested in checking out right now, is the Stride game engine. Now it is, the one more thing I'll point out is that the Unigen, NeoAxis, Unity, Unreal Engine, Unity, they all have a pay after certain point of money or profit. Anywhere from $100,000 to $500,000, you're gonna have to start ponying up some money, and a lot of people have an issue with that, and they don't want to do the share because if you publish on Steam, you have to pony up like 30% of your money anyway. So now it's more like 34, 35, depending on the engine you use. Unity also has some other hidden fees in there, and they've gotten in a lot of trouble for it lately, and there's a lot of people changing from Unity. And so that's where this engine comes in right here, Stride. It's a very Unity-esque. You can see here in this picture of the browser that it looks very, very much like Unity. Another one is the Flax game engine that I don't have up here. It also has a pay-for model though. Anything after, I think with them it's $250,000. They want like 3% or 4% of your income after that. But Stride's completely open source and updated annually, much like the NeoAxis engine is updated annually, but they don't have any money fees here for you. They are an open source project, and I believe that they're a descendant of another game engine, Stripe or something, I believe it was. Don't quote me on that, but anyway, and they're being updated all the time. The only thing I don't know about is I haven't used it yet. I'm going to jump into it maybe today or tomorrow or something. However, I don't see a landscape or terrain tool in here. There may be one. I know the Flax engine does have one, And let me just pull up the Flax engine here. Let me just see. I'm gonna just do it. I'm gonna do it in this Falco engine here, and I'm gonna go Flax game engine just to show you, because it's also a Unity competitor. Let's just see here. Flax game engine. So 1.5 release, that was February 19th, 2023, so very recent release. Just going to take this back to the home and see if it does some very beautiful beautiful landscapes and waters and things are available. It's a really rich engine, but again, if you don't want to be paying any money, then maybe it's not the engine for you. If you are planning to release something that's going to make you over $250,000 or whatever the pay fee is here. That being said, most hobbyists and developers don't get into that mode, because the thing is if you are an indie developer, a hobbyist developer, and you ever get to the point where you release a game, are you really going to be making that much money on it? And if you are, Steam's already taken 30%. What's another 4% or 3% or whatever it is, even 5%? It's really a very small amount of your profit margin if you're making $250,000 a year or more. So I wouldn't get hung up on how much the game engine charges you per se. I would be more hung up on the licensing. And that's the thing with Unity, is that they're changing their licensing, they change their management, they lay off people, they buy a bunch of things, spend a bunch of money, it doesn't work out the way they want, they change things up again, then they try and nickel and dime you. It's like, so that's, Unity's really gotten themselves into this mode. A lot of these other game engines, they don't do that. They might change their licensing up every decade or something because they have to. And most of them, it's been for the better. Like NeoAxis here, for instance, they used to charge. They had a store where they used to charge a ton of money for assets and things, a pipe creator, a fence creator, like $1,400 or something. It's like, whoa, I'll just bring in some pipe models and I'll lay them out. Like, I don't need your pipe creator for $1,400. Now they've included those in the engine, and they charge you for their industrial kit, which makes sense. And yeah, like Unigen, I don't know if they charge for it or not, but they're big in the robotics as well. So their engine is a game engine, but it's also like a robotics and technology engine. So they may be changing more for the licensing on that sort of thing, right? I don't know what their licensing is or where their tier is here. Let's see. Get Unigen. Let's just go over there and see what they have. Yeah, so they've got a different pricing. Like contact us, right? Contact us. So that's simulation. That would be like their engineering product, or the engineering is their engineering product. Simulation, whatever. Here, pro community, $1,500 a seat per year, but the community version's free. No runtime fee, no royalties. So different model with them. However, if I had to make a recommendation right now, I'm thinking I'd recommend the Flax engine is a good one to start with, if you're at this level. So now the last thing, I know this video is dragging on, the last thing I want to touch on is these type of engines. Babylon JS. So these are OpenGL engines. They're all done through the web, through code, through the web, JavaScript in this case, and very powerful. You can do a bunch of noding, you can do a bunch of particle paths, PBR materials, GUI systems. There are some basic GUIs, but you basically can build your own game engine from this engine, and we'll get to that in a minute. Play Canvas has basically taken the same technology, and they have made a web-based engine, but they have a GUI editor. Do I have a picture here? There, we got a picture here of their editor. So you get a full-fledged editor, whereas Babylon JS, you pretty much have to make your own editors, aside from the very basics. But they're basically the same technology under the hood. However, this one, Play Canvas, comes with an editor, and I do believe it's subscription-based. But I don't know exactly what the pricing is. Let's take a look over here. So free, $0 per seat per month, and you get a bunch of things in there. So I don't know per se what you're missing here. unlimited private projects. It's limited private and public projects. And then you've also got like the organization, $50 a seat a month. So that's, you know, that's pretty good if you're actually going to have a development team and you need some people there. So it doesn't break the bank again. And that's what these new engines are doing, where they are a subscription base, pay base. They're very reasonable. $15 a seat per month, you know, unlimited private projects rather than just a couple of projects, et cetera, et cetera. Then over here we've got WebGL Studio. Again, I'm just going to pull up a picture here. Very similar, OpenGL based technology, and you have in it, you know, animations. This is showing an animation studio, your objects. You've got a full GUI interface, and you know, capable of doing. I showed you. There is a demo of that can load in a web page. But again, this is the future. And GDevelop also had that web editor built in with HTML5, WebGL, and now WebGPU, WebAPU. You have a lot more capable power being able to be built right into the web and harnessed in the web. And so that brings us back to this Babylon.js. In Babylon.js, we've been using this actually. A fellow out of France has been using it, and I've been helping with the art asset and the feedback and bug testing and some development ideas. And we have been using it to build our own system, or his system, but I'm a collaborator on it. And these are some screenshots of the previous version, but this is a massive multiplayer online game engine. And basically this is like the zone area where you lay down your things, a particle editor, model handler, asset management, all those types of things built in. GUI editor, very basic. That's actually right now getting an overhaul. I do have a tour of this engine that we're working on. There's a playlist I'm dedicating to it with the kind of getting started YouTube videos, how to get in and work. But the downside to doing a massive multiplayer engine is that you don't have the quality. Like if you're doing a standalone game, like back to the Babylon.js, you have this full PBR, texture quality, particle quality, everything. You have some amazing, like that looks photorealistic, right? And that's just a 3D model of a little ghetto blaster or whatever. So you have full capabilities. But the problem we have is that that's all streaming. That's the downside of this WebGL technology, is that everything streams from the server or the hosted location to the clients through a web browser. So if you're trying to stream 20 or 30 trees in a scene, like say this screenshot here, you got a few trees and some cave rocks and a water body, not a big deal, you know, you can do that. But if you've got a big world, like say this world goes on and on and on, and you've got a giant world, and you've got to stream 1,000 trees, and you've got to stream, you know, 300 models, and you've got to stream 30 characters running around, and maybe like 60 monsters or something. All of a sudden, that bandwidth becomes very congested. So that's the problem with doing a massive multiplayer world, is that you've got to use maybe some older graphic technology, less polygons, simpler textures. Instead of going with 4K textures, maybe you've got to use 1K textures. Instead of going with 2K textures on your PBR models, maybe you've got to go with 512K. So there's a lot of compromises there, and we're working through all that right now to bring the best product we can. But you're not going to get that Unreal Engine massive multiplayer look. You're not going to get Valheim. You're not going to get, you know, you might get a World of Warcraft type experience, or you might get a Neverwinter, the original online game experience. It all depends, but that's the constraints. Anyway, that's pretty much just what I wanted to go over with you today, was this playlist and what it's going to be about, and I'm going to be adding game engines to it. So I know this was a long video. However, I think that you needed this background information to kind of sort out what type of game engine you might want to use as a hobbyist, and it might also help you to decide which ones you want to look as I cover them. On that note, have a great day, and see you in the next one.